Insight.
A well-scored piece of music has the potential to inspire awe, wonder, excitement, and terror. It uses a language that transcends mere words. Instead, it hits straight to the heart. The movie industry has always known this, and as technology has enabled it, the video game industry has caught on. More and more time and effort is being put into music that slips behind the action and inspires the player. Don't believe me? This music playing now is from the upcoming game Edge of Twilight. Let's have a listen. Think of an outcast warrior, walking that endless mile. A failed civilization weighs heavy on your shoulders in a world that seems to be but one step away from complete collapse. Close your eyes and listen. This piece was composed by Mick Gordon, the audio director at Game Audio Australia, and he says video game music is a powerful yet subtle means for enhancing the feelings of a video game.
You really want music to support the gameplay. If you want to be a heroic player, then the music should really just enhance that heroic feeling. If it's a sad moment, then the music should just enhance that sad feeling. But at any one point, the player shouldn't feel that the music is telling them what to do. It should just be supportive, and that's a definite challenge. It should really definitely be subtle. It's always a good way to sum it up by saying that if the player notices the music, then you're doing something wrong.
Subtlety is the name of the game, as video games are, for the most part, a visual experience. And when I asked Mick about composing to vision that is often incomplete, he gave a very interesting response.
Most of the time I'll get videos from the developers. So they'll send me like a level that they're working on with the character or whatever the type of game is. And often it's kind of temp stuff, right? So there'll be the rough level there, but the character is just a white box that kind of moves around on screen. And the level itself is like this grey palette of more boxes and flat lines and all that sort of thing. And they're saying, right, so right in the distance there'll be a dragon and you're like a knight and you're swinging your sword around and there's castles on fire to the left and the right of you. And I can't see that for the life of me. I can only see these grey bloody boxes.
Josh Koen, another video game composer, thinks the music has to be unique to every game and says it helps to play through a game beta or view concept art where possible.
You want to tailor your music for the project at hand. You don't want to play a track that doesn't suit that vibe. So you really do tailor each of your arrangements for the task at hand. And it helps a lot to either play through a beta of the game to get a feel for it or look at concept art for that game.
Mick says he discusses the feel the game developers want the piece to evoke when it is being played.
What we try to start talking about is what feeling they want the player to feel during that point. So I don't really care so much about the dragon in the distance or the knight or the burning castles, but if they say they want that, it's a flashback, for example, of this player's life, of this previous life, and they want it to be very mysterious, then I kind of go for that tone. But if they say it's an action-packed piece where you're battling with a dragon, then of course we'll go off into a more battle-orientated, heavy-type feel as well.
And then, of course, it comes back to what Mick said earlier about supporting vision with audio, not dominating it. The next challenge in composing comes from the dynamic models of play presented in a video game, where every time you play, you can take different actions. Josh maintains that this presents an opportunity rather than a hindrance.
Video games are dynamic. They're always changing. You, the person playing the game, gets to decide what you do and how you do it. And that's fantastic for people that compose video game music, because it really means that their opportunity to create music is limitless. You need to think of the kind of music that would work in each part of the game or each scenario. You don't want to be playing happy music if the protagonist in the game has decided to go postal and start like annihilating everyone. You get to cover all bases in that regard, but often a very important thing is a recurring theme. So a common trick used is you might have a motif, a riff that is in a major key at the start of the game, at which you set out and you're happy. Further into the game, if things start to get bleak or you're in a boss battle, you can take that riff and then put a minor key over that particular riff, and it gives the same song completely new meaning.
Mick agreed with Josh and also discussed how composers are able to break down a motif, taking or adding audio layers in response to the action that's on the screen.
That 3-minute piece, but split it into different what we'd call stem mix. So if you had guitar, bass and drums, for example, instead of having that as one wave file, you'd split that out into 3 separate wave files. And so when, the player's just wandering about, you might just have the bass in there. But when 3 enemies come around the corner, the guitar's going to kick in to make it a little bit more edgy. And then you walk around the next corner and there's 300 enemies there, then the drums kick in and it gets intense. But it's all one track. It's just a dynamic mix as such.
And it's this dynamic mix of both genre and vision that allows for such freedom in instrument choice. Mick, who composes on guitar, often finds himself branching out and using different instruments when trying to get the desired outcome.
A lot of the time it depends on the score and the genre and the type of music that the developers or whoever we're working with is looking for. I've just finished up doing Need for Speed Shift, and that was a very guitar-orientated track. There's lots of very heavy beats, lots of Nine Inch Nails type, industrial sounds and very, very heavy-orientated. But at the same time, I was doing a game for THQ called Marvel Superhero Squad, which is obviously the Marvel superhero theme. So that was very orchestral, and we had lots of big horns and big drums and big orchestral palettes and things like that. So, right across the board, really, it's really just how you arrange them and the types of instruments that you implement. And that's how you get different music. But I definitely use guitar a lot to write with because it's comfortable. I'm terrible on the keyboard. I kind of put my hands on the keyboard and just whack things. I don't really know what I'm doing. But on the guitar, it feels comfortable. I can write on the guitar.
As more and more people realise the potential and importance of video game music, more and more of it is popping up. It is from this group of people that the video game remixers community has been built. Here Josh explains what a remix is.
Remixing is fantastic fun. It has its pros and cons because you've had the foundation laid down for you. And writing songs from scratch, I'm sure any budding singer-songwriter would know, can be quite difficult sometimes. So video game remixing is essentially taking a song that already exists and either rearranging it, that is grabbing the waveform of the song and slicing it up, or you might put a new drum beat in, and also more commonly changing the instrumentation. So for one example, the Legend of Zelda theme that I remixed was traditionally played on a harpsichord or an accordion, and I changed that arrangement such that it was played on an ocarina.
Remixing has reached the point where a major American metal band, Megadeth, has recorded a cover of the Duke Nukem 3D theme. Video game developers are also getting in on the act, remixing their own songs in sequels to popular games. In fact, what you're listening to now is called Hell March from Red Alert 2, a remix of the same song that was used in the first game of the series. But remixes of classic game music aren't just hard rock. What you're listening to now is Josh's Legend of Zelda remix, a more subtle take of music from the same game, and one of the best remixes out there. Video games range from non-stop action to fantasy to everything in between, and each visual experience requires a unique sound. Whether it is hard rock, as composed by Nine Inch Nails frontman Trent Reznor in sci-fi shooter Quake, a contemporary orchestral remix of a Zelda classic by Josh, or a guitar-inspired strings piece for The Edge of Twilight by Mick. It all gives a unique feel to the video game experience. And if you still doubt the power of video game music, take this advice from Josh.
Next time you're playing your favourite video game, go into the options and keep your sound effects on, turn off the music, and though you never knew it was there, you will feel immediately that the game is very different without it.
That was Insight for this week. I'd like to thank Josh Koen and Mick Gordon for their time and the music they contributed to the show. You can find Josh on MySpace and YouTube, and Mick at mick-gordon.com. Next up for Hot Sites, Meg is looking at ning.com. But to take us out, you're listening to Josh's take on The Legend of Zelda.